Hello, welcome. Today we will discuss about programming for problem solving lab. In this part of the video lecture, we will try to see how do we proceed with the lab called PPS LAB. This is a course that is offered to first BTech students of GRIET in the first semester. So I'm Sandhya and now I will take you forward to this lecture in which we will discuss about programming for problem solving lab basics. So let's get ahead. Programming for problem solving, like how to get started. There are certain questions that comes into our mind whenever we say how to get started. So we take up this opportunity to just have a look at what is the process followed to get going. Introduction to PPS Lab. The questions that arise are: why do we do, what do we do, where do we do, and how do we do? So why do we do? Why is it important? Why are labs important, or why is coding important? Here you find some great names on the screen: Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Dennis Ritchie. I only wanted to tell you one thing. You have a subject called programming for problem solving. It is C language is used for you to learn programming, and programming helps you to create a way of thinking. It stretches your mind. It allows you how to think. It enhances your problem solving abilities and helps you in writing program. As rightly said by Dennis Ritchie, the only way to learn a new programming language is by writing programs in it. So PPS Lab is a platform for us to practice the programs and enhance our problem solving skills. What do we do in PPS Lab? We do write programs which are divided into 15 tasks. We will execute simple or basic programs for our acquaintance of the language, and then we'll proceed to execute lab tasks, which are ordered in a range of simple to complex. Which language do we use? We use a language called C. So where do we do PPS Lab programs? Dear students, there are a number of platforms available freely, proprietarily to do the C coding: online, offline editors, coding platforms, mobile apps, etc. A lot are there. So we'll just have a brief look at each and everything. What are all the offline editors or IDEs? What do we mean by IDE? IDE is Integrated Development Environment. These are usually softwares that you tend to download in your computer or a laptop and then use it to write your programs. So they are Turbo C, Turbo C++, Edit Plus, Dave C++, Eclipse, Code Blocks, GCC compiler, etc. GCC compiler is used usually on Linux platform. Rest all can be used in all the platforms. Turbo C++ limit themselves to Windows. Edit Plus, Dave C++, other editors can work both on Linux and Windows. What are the online editors? We don't want to install a software in your computer, but want to do randomly execute your programs as you come across. There are a number of online editors. These are just a few that I have mentioned. There are a number of online editors available for us to code for free. Online GDB, JDoodle, Ripplelet, Tutorial Point, Geeks for Geeks, etc. A lot of sites allow you to, write your C codes, run it. Moodle LMS, which we probably will see for executions and submissions of assignments for lab, is also a platform where you can do virtual programming. This concept is called as virtual programming. We'll move ahead and see what are online coding platforms. Online coding platforms are certain platforms which provide questions and then allow the user to answer them, or which help you to improve your problem solving abilities by designing the questions they have, and you got to provide answers to those. Also, there is a lot of tutorials available in these platforms for us to study and then approach a problem. They are HackerRank, HackerEarth, W3 Schools, Geeks for Geeks, Code Tantra, Tutorials Point, InterviewBit, Sanford, etc. What are mobile apps for coding in C? So there are so many mobile apps. Since a lot of students make it a habit, they do not carry laptops to college. They do not carry laptops everywhere they go, but they wanted to be on coding. They want to try out or check a simple code. How does it work? Whenever the code is small, that means it has minimum lines of code. We can always try writing it using mobile environment. So there are a few mobile apps: Learn C Programming, Coding C, Mobile C, C Programming, CPP Droid, Test Your C Skills, All C Programs, etc. These are a few apps that I have listed. These apps help you to master your C language. So I recommend you to check one or two of these apps, and whichever you feel comfortable, you go ahead. So what do we do? How do we do programs in PPS Lab? How do we do? We know how are we supposed to approach. So first of all, from the theory of PPS, understand the steps for creation and execution of programs. What are the steps to create and execute programs? Understand that. Follow the general structure of a C program, and also have an idea of errors that we come across in programming, and then go and execute your programs. So let's go to step one. What are the steps in creating and executing of programs? We will not see in deep about all this because we have already seen in the theory part. We will limit ourselves to understanding it in a broad way. So the first step is a programmer opens up a text editor, writes his program, saves it, then it becomes the source code, which is taken as input by compiler that produces the object code, which is taken as input by linker that links to the standard library modules and produces executable code. Executable code is taken up by loader and runner, which combines it with inputs and produces result. So there are four phases, that is writing and editing or creating and editing, compiling, linking, and running. So if we go through these four steps, then we will be with the answers. So what is the general structure of a C program? Any C program is expected to be written following this structure. Documentation, which has comments, linking section, which has all the header files, definition section, in case if you use any constants, global declaration section for us to support those global values, then the main program section, in which is essential for a C program. You write all that heart, the crux of the code in this main program section, which contains two parts, declaration and executable section part, followed by the subprograms. So this is the general structure we need to follow to write all the C programs, which we will see in deep as we go into executing tasks. What are all the errors that we come across in this process of programming, either during compilation or during runtime or during output? We come across a lot of errors. We might come across a lot of errors. They are syntax errors, logical errors, runtime errors, linker errors, and semantic errors. I will give a description of the video where we discussed about all this in detail. Please go through those and then start with executions. How do we run programs on an IDE? Given an IDE, how do we run? Or an editor? So every C program is written on an editor. So open a C editor, save your code with .txt extension. To compile your program, use Alt F9. If there are any errors, go back and try to edit the same code, and then come back and press Ctrl F9 to run your program and check your result. What are the objectives of this course called Programming for Problem Solving? Dear students, the course for Programming for Problem Solving Lab has a few objectives. It intends to work on an IDE, help the students to create, edit, compile, and debug programs, analyze various steps in program development, develop and solve basic understanding of C language, develop modular programming or reusable codes to write and create, working with files. These are the objectives the course has, and these are the outcomes the course expects. So by the end of this course, all of you must have these properties. All of you must have these, satisfy these outcomes. You should be able to, formulate algorithms for problem solving. You should be able to analyze errors. You should be able to correct the errors and get your execution processed. You should be able to represent and manipulate data using arrays, strings, structures, and pointers. And you should also be able to work with files. So this is what the course intends to do. And let us see what is there in store for us. The PPS syllabus is framed into 15 tasks, as I told you already. In task 1 and task 2 refers to the basics of the language. In task 1, you will see operators. In task 2, we will see some bit manipulations and some logics, small and simple logics happening. Task 3 is about roots, finding the roots of an equation and trying to implement a calculator. Task 4 is about checking what are the types of numbers: palindrome, Armstrong, perfect. Task 5 is pyramid or patterns and series. Task 6 is arrays. We work with arrays in which we find out sum and average and some searching techniques. Task 7 we'll work with matrices. Task 8 we'll work with strings. In task 9 also we'll go ahead and work with strings, trying to find out if that is palindrome, and we'll also try to sort the strings. In task 9, task 9, 10 is all about functions. In task 11, we will talk about using functions. Task 12 is using structures. Task 13 is using pointers. Task 14, we will also try to use files, that is preprocessor directives. In task 15, we will work with files by merging files, and then the last one is command line arguments. So this is how the syllabus is framed, dear students. So we will go ahead from task 1, each unit. Task 1 and 2 comes under unit 1. Task 3, 4, 5 comes under unit 2. So we'll take up each unit, each task, and then try to solve how does it work. These are a few references you can go through. So this is what Programming for Problem Solving Lab is there for all of you. I hope you have understood how are we supposed to proceed. So before we go ahead, there is a little understanding that is expected from the user. So I recommend all of you to understand the program development steps, try to have an idea about errors, and also have a look at the structure of a C program so that we can start writing the basic codes. So on that note,